Welcome, friends, in and of an awakening world. And this is a commentary on the Yoga Sutras, but it is not just for people that actually um, have practiced yoga for millennia or the past decades or however long it is. It is for everyone who is interested in discovering um, what they are beyond this body mind, their most essential self, their most essential nature, and who are on this trajectory of spiritual awakening, and thereby actually contributing to an awakening world. So thank you for actually your presence and for being interested, because the more this again becomes common knowledge, the more the collective consciousness is changed. It even if you are not, um, never underestimate, because of being non-separate. Whatever you start understanding, awakening to, practicing, becoming aware of, the deeper you become aware of your essential nature, the more you are actually operating consciously within the universal consciousness. You're discovering your universal I. And these teachings offer the perspective of yoga, but obviously, um, for each one of you that has this depth of understanding and this depth of wisdom coming from your traditions. And I don't, for me, like whether that's a religion or that's a philosophy, whatever has called you back into remembrance, into this path, these teachings will speak to you. Because as we move back from this very individuated looking entity to its more and more our true essence, there is less and less um, of the typical discriminating and distinguishing factors, and more just this joy and this happiness and of our shared essence and what we all share, and to remember this, that whatever path of depth has called you into your own remembrance, is a shared factor here, and a shared knowing, a shared wisdom. It's all the same that is pointed to, and you will just be able to use these teachings and translate it to the cultural context then, or the specific context in which you operate, and this shared qualities is also part of this awakening that we so beautifully are able to witness. So we are on like now we're in the suttas where Patanjali is actually starting to explore the 8 limbs of yoga. And he always first lists one of the limbs. What is this limb? And then in the following suttas, he will explain it into greater depth. So this first sutta is about the first limb of yoga, and basically just lists different so-called yamas. That is the behaviors or the attitudes that you should cultivate towards so-called others. And again, it comes already out of the knowingness that on some level you are one with others. On some level, you are not separate from others. On some level, there is something more essential that is shared. And so how how can we come from that? And also what kind of attitudes really also cultivate an atmosphere of oneness, especially as long as we are still not knowing completely what we are, not as long as we haven't realized our true nature. What can we already actually cultivate? How to live life from this understanding, how to interact with others from this growing awakening, from this growing understanding that you have. And many of these attitudes actually already also, again, change something within the collective consciousness if you actually adhere to them, but also really change something about your mind. And each one of these attitudes that is recommended already actually helps you also to purify some of your conditioning that might just lurk in the background of your mind. That's just there, and it's this questioning of ourselves. How do we interact? How 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 to be in this world from this deepening understanding that we have. And the fast attitude is ahimsa. It is non-violence. It is to be not violent towards others, and not to act out your innermost traumas and place them onto others, and just go out and be violent. And obviously this non-violence is that you are meant to cultivate is towards all beings, towards everything that's there, human beings, animals, plants, whatever. It is an cultivation of non-violence. And again, as I said before, each one of these yamas also propels you forward, and some of them will be easier for you, simply also because of your mindset, because of your conditioning, because of your upbringing, because of also deeper imprints. Some of them will be easier, and some of them will be more challenging for you to cultivate, to operate, to have this purification of being honorable in life also. What does it mean nowadays to live an honorable life? How can we all integrate this great awakening into our daily behaviors towards others? So the fasting is ahimsa, not harming, not going out and wanting to harm, not harming others, non-violence. And the second one is truth, to be truthful to what is. This is like, again, we will go in the next weeks, we will go into each one and see what Patanjali says for each one of these. Also, what happens as you cultivate, what is happening in this deeper understanding of what happens within oneness if I act in a certain way. But truthfulness is such a biggie for many people, is because all what the small self actually usually clings to is all these learned strategies of keeping itself alive in whatever shape and form this actually was cultivated, mostly in your childhood. Like what is the conditioning, and how we then not actually look at what is, or are open towards each other, or are actually really truthful all the time, truthful to what is here, truthful what actually is, and how what a domino effect this actually has. The more you come from truth, and also what a kind of, how this propels you, each one of them, how it propels you to be nonviolent, peaceful. What does this as a deepening actually attitude that's cultivated? Placing your awareness on nonviolence, placing your awareness on truth, on being truthful, and being more and more truthful to what's here. How this, even these attitudes, like we saw, yoga is a lot also about purification, purifying the mind, purifying, changing patterns within this relative construct, having helpful patterns. How much these yamas already change patterns for you if you cultivate them. And then the next one is not stealing, asteya, refrain from taking from others. And how this also, like, these are the typical things that come up from this continuously upheld sense of separation. Yeah, I can just harm others. I don't, like, my small self would, how I don't see the shared existence. And so I can harm others. I can not tell the truth. I can just take from others. And how you're already walking on a path of unification, a path of the heart, actually, when these attitudes are cultivated, non-stealing. And the next one is brahmacharya. And that is that you see this body as a vessel for consciousness. You really start to understand, first of all, you understand I am not this body, and that this body is not just an expression of consciousness, but a vessel for consciousness. It's also then a vessel for the divine, a vessel for consciousness, a vessel for something higher. And you also see that then in others. These are vessels for consciousness. And that's also one of the things that's so different to the small self, who just sees objects, and how these objects can enrich you, or help you in any way, add to you. And what if you saw them as vessels for the divine, or vessels for consciousness? How again, however this higher reality you actually want to name. What is it that propels that for you? And the last one is aparigraha. It means to not be attached. Such an important thing. So not be so attached to the ephemeral world. It doesn't mean that it isn't enjoyed and it isn't loved. It just means that this clinging to it, clinging to everything, that this starts to also be a little let go, that you start understanding this is a changing, a continuously changing creation, continuously changing manifestation. And your anchor is always in the changeless self. And so even to cultivate this, to cultivate this detachment from form, from what is happening all the time, is also propelling you into a certain direction already. Namely, to not place your main awareness or attention on the ephemeral world. And so we see already, you see a little bit how each one of those is already cultivating, basically, is already starting to cultivate a deeper awareness of our shared nature, a deeper awareness away from the typical attitudes of the small self, the typical understanding you're over there, I can do whatever I want. It already starts to shift you towards a more unified understanding and life and living, and already starts to change your awareness. And also each one of those you can become a beacon for those. Yeah, there are many past sages that have been beacons for nonviolence, beacons of truth, beacons of not taking something, beacons of being a vessel for the divine, beacons of not being so attached. Nowadays, oftentimes we don't know anymore, but we have these stereotypes of what it means to be awake, how this awake person has to be. But when we ponder, there were so many sages on this planet, each one demonstrating even one of these attitudes in, like deeply established in them, exemplifying them, being a beacon for them. So these are the yamas, the attitudes that you should cultivate towards so-called others, until you can see them also as parts of the self, ways to live from the love that you actually are. Namaste.